Hello everyone, I'm Detective Sarah. Today we're examining one of the most studied cases in American criminal psychology. This case changed how law enforcement approaches investigations and challenged many assumptions about criminal behavior. Between 1989 and 1990, 7 incidents occurred along Florida's highways that would become a landmark case in criminal history. The individual responsible was Aileen Wuornos, whose case became the subject of extensive psychological and sociological study. What makes this case particularly significant is how it revealed gaps in our understanding of criminal behavior patterns and the complex factors that can influence someone's path in life. Let's examine the facts and circumstances that led to these tragic events. To understand this case, we need to examine the early life circumstances that researchers believe contributed to later events. Aileen Carol Pittman was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan. Her early life was marked by significant instability and trauma. Her father had a documented history of mental health issues and criminal behavior, while her mother was unable to care for the children. At age 4, Aileen and her brother were placed with their maternal grandparents. According to case records and later testimonies, this household environment was characterized by dysfunction and various forms of mistreatment. By adolescence, Aileen was already showing signs of behavioral problems. She left school early and, according to official records, became involved in various illegal activities to survive. At age 15, she was no longer living in a stable home environment. Mental health professionals who later studied her case noted that these early experiences likely contributed to her psychological development. The lack of stable relationships, proper education, and supportive care systems created a foundation for future problems. This pattern, early trauma leading to behavioral issues, is something researchers have identified in many criminal cases, though it's important to note that most people who experience difficult childhoods do not become involved in criminal activity. As an adult, Aileen moved to Florida, where she survived through various means, including engaging in activities that put her in contact with potentially dangerous individuals along highways and in isolated areas. In 1986, she met Tyria Moore, and they began a relationship that lasted several years. According to case files, this relationship represented one of the few stable connections in Aileen's life. However, financial pressures and the dangerous nature of her lifestyle created ongoing stress and risk. Aileen began carrying a firearm for protection, a decision that would prove significant in the events that followed. During this period, Aileen's behavior became increasingly erratic. She had multiple encounters with law enforcement for various minor offenses, and there were reports of her displaying aggressive behavior when she felt threatened or cornered. Law enforcement experts later noted that this period showed classic signs of escalating risk factors that are often present before more serious criminal behavior occurs. The first incident occurred on December 1, 1989, involving Richard Mallory, a 51-year-old electronics repair shop owner. According to the investigation, Aileen encountered Mallory along Interstate 75. 3 days later, authorities discovered Mallory deceased in a wooded area in Volusia County. Over the following months, 6 additional similar incidents occurred. David Spears, 43, a construction worker, in June 1990. Charles Carskadden, 40, who worked part-time in rodeo activities. Troy Burris, 50, a traveling salesman. Charles Humphreys, 56, a retired military officer. Walter Antonio, 62, who worked in security, and Peter Seams, 65, whose case remained unsolved as his remains were never recovered. Each incident followed a similar pattern. The individuals were found in remote locations, and their vehicles were discovered abandoned elsewhere. Personal belongings and valuables were missing from the scenes. What made this case unique from an investigative standpoint was that initial profiling suggested law enforcement should look for a male suspect. The idea that a woman could be responsible for this pattern of incidents was outside conventional criminal profiling at the time. During later questioning, Aileen claimed that in each case she had been threatened or attacked first, and that her actions were defensive in nature. However, investigators found evidence suggesting that robbery was often a primary motivation. The investigation breakthrough came from an incident on July 4th, 1990. Two women were involved in a vehicle accident involving a car that had been reported missing, Peter Sim's Pontiac. The women left the scene, but witnesses provided descriptions that law enforcement was able to use. Composite sketches were created and distributed. Multiple tips from the public identified the women as Aileen Wuornos and Tyria Moore, who were known to frequent certain establishments in Central Florida. Law enforcement located Tyria Moore in Pennsylvania. After extensive questioning, she agreed to cooperate with the investigation. Her cooperation included participating in recorded conversations with Aileen, during which Aileen made several incriminating statements. On January 9, 1991, Aileen Wuornos was arrested at an establishment in Port Orange, Florida. She was initially charged in connection with Richard Mallory's case, but investigators suspected her involvement in the other incidents as well. This arrest marked a significant moment in criminal justice history, as it challenged many assumptions about criminal behavior patterns and demonstrated the importance of keeping an open mind during investigations. The legal proceedings began in January 1992 and attracted significant media attention due to the unusual nature of the case. Aileen's defense team argued that her actions were defensive responses to threats and attacks. The prosecution presented evidence suggesting that the incidents were primarily motivated by robbery and that Aileen had shown a pattern of escalating criminal behavior. During the proceedings, additional information about Richard Mallory emerged, revealing that he had a previous criminal record that included violent offenses. This information had not been initially available to the defense team and raised questions about the circumstances of that particular incident. Despite this revelation, Aileen was found guilty and received the maximum sentence allowed by law. She was eventually convicted in connection with 6 of the 7 cases. After spending more than a decade in the legal system, Aileen Wuornos was executed by the state of Florida on October 9, 2002. The case of Aileen Wuornos remains significant in criminal justice studies for several reasons. It challenged assumptions about criminal profiling, highlighted the complex relationship between early trauma and later behavior, and raised important questions about how society addresses mental health and social support systems. From a research perspective, this case has contributed to our understanding of how various factors, including childhood experiences, mental health issues, substance use, and social isolation, can combine to create dangerous situations. It also demonstrated the importance of thorough investigations and the need for law enforcement to remain open to possibilities that may not fit conventional patterns. While nothing can excuse the tragic loss of life that occurred, studying cases like this helps us better understand criminal behavior and potentially prevent similar situations in the future. Thank you for joining me for this examination of a significant case in American criminal history. I'm Detective Sarah, and we'll continue exploring important cases that have shaped our understanding of criminal justice.